Kutov. Today's Daf is Daf Ayin Hay in Ksubas. We're for Shalom for Lozer ben Reuma and for Yosef Israel ben Chaim Michal. From the two dots, so the first of the wide lines on Daf Ayin Hay and Aleph. The Mishnah had said back a couple of days ago that if a man marries a woman on the condition that she has no blemishes, now we'll see if it's a blemish that's obvious to the eye, he knows what he's doing. Obviously, he can't say he didn't know. We're talking what kind of blemishes we're talking about. Blemishes if that he couldn't see, and he marries her into that condition. It turns out she has blemishes. He doesn't want to live with that. Then she goes out without a ksuba. More than that, if he get married on the condition that she has no moment, and the found moment she doesn't even need to get because it's not mukadeshes. We learned that you could have a t'nai kedushin, even though be'ila is not something we saw yesterday. You can't do a be'ila all day, a shliach. And in order for it to be a t'nai, you have to be able to have a shliach like we saw from Moshe and Yeshua with the 2.5 tribes. However, we said yesterday that kedushin is compared not only as a kedushin idea, but it's also with kesef and shtar, like we do today with kesef. And there you could have a shliach. So if he said, I'm marrying on the condition that there's no blemishes and there are blemishes, it's not a kedushin at all. Let's say he married her stam. He didn't mention anything about blemishes and he found blemishes. That's not something that a normal person would like. Therefore, he can divorce her with no ksuba, but he needed a divorce because he didn't make that a time in the kedushin. What movement are we speaking about? So the last line in the Mishnah was, pardon? Why would he? Why didn't she get ksuba? Because that's not normal. You should have told me it's that. If a man marries a woman and turns out she's got some hidden secret and she didn't tell him about that, she's not entitled to the ksuba. She's penalized for not informing him. You're supposed to let people know if there's some medical condition, etc., that he wouldn't know about. And therefore, he need a divorce, but he doesn't have to do ksuba. What?
There's no kedushin.
No, if there is kedushin, he didn't make it tonight. There are two cases. If he made it tonight, then there's no kedushin at all. That's what the Mishnah said. If he didn't make a condition, he didn't make it tonight. He just married her stam, and it turned out that she has blemishes. That person wouldn't normally, a normal person wouldn't want that. Then he could divorce her without. Now, what blemishes are we speaking about? So the Mishnah said, all the mummen that are possible by a Kohen in order to do the avodah, in Paraklaf in Vayikra, in Emor, talks about the various blemishes that a Kohen has that prohibit him from serving. He's disqualified if he's blind, if he's got a broken back, if he's a dwarf, if he's all kinds of strange things. One arm or one eye is bigger than the other. All kinds of things like that. Those are mummen that possible by a Kohen. And the Mishnah calling women not posting, but Kohanim posting. Those are also no good by a woman. Those are the blemishes we're speaking about. Now the Mishnah, the Gemara says, Tana in the Brisa, the first of the wide lines on Ayin Hey and Aleph, Hosif Olei and Zeya. They add three more blemishes that apply to women that don't apply to Kohanim. Three more. What is Zeya? Person perspires a lot. Bo, what we call Shuma, a mole. We'll talk about that. Breach hapeh, and terrible breath, bad breath. Those three don't apply to a Kohen, but do apply to a woman. Says they don't pass by a Kohen. By the time we learn what are other psum that pass by a Kohen, a zaken, a person who's too old, a chol, a person who's sick, a mazum, a person who's dirty. Like a z today we call that a virus, a ziyum, but we're talking about a person who's very dirty, can't keep himself clean. Those passel by a. These actually we're talking about animals. Animals are also puzzle if they have a mum to bring on the base mish, right? So the Mishnah says there, Hazak and Achol and Mizuma apply to an animal. An animal can't be served. Utnan, another Mishnah that says, Mumen Elu, Bain Kavum, Bain over and post Psum Ba'adam. These same mumen that apply to an animal can't be brought as a carbon. If they apply to a person, whether it's a mum kavu, a permanent one, or a temporary one, passel by a person also. And we're assuming now when he says Mizuham, that includes dirty, that includes perspiring, bad smell of bad breath. So the you see that they apply to a Kohen. Why do you say these are three additional ones that apply to women that don't apply to a Kohen? Mizuam presumably is as same as Zeya and Reach HaPeh, and those apply to a Kohen. So why do you say these apply to women more over and above of a Kohen? We're talking about the sweat that we're talking about over here is even a zeya, a perspire that passes. They didn't have all kinds of deodorants and things like that. So the Mishnah, when a Kohen is only possible by a smell that he just can't stop, that doesn't go away. He's got a permanent body odor. By a woman, even a temporary one passes there too. That's one answer. Rav Ashi Omer, Zayam Mizum Kamras. What are you asking Kash from Zayam Mizum? That's what you're assuming, that Mizum includes Zayam Reach HaPeh. No, Hasam Gabi Kohanim Efshel Avra Bekiva Dechamer, just the opposite. By a Kohen, he can drink some sour wine and get rid of the bad smell that he has, right? He can put some strong peppers in his mouth while he's serving Vavad Avoda. He can take care of this. Another side, with a Kohen, he can't serve while he has these bad things. So he can get rid of it. He can get rid of the bad smell by drinking some sour wine. I don't know how that affects the perspiration. Pardon? Yeah, Listerine. No, we're talking about the Reach HaPeh. The Reich HaPeh is on the pilpul. The Listerine will help for the Reich HaPeh. But the body smell apparently is helped with that. But a woman is with him all the time. In other words, a Kohen can take something temporarily to help him clean himself up while he's doing the avoda. But a woman who's living with 24 hours a day and she can't stop those things, that's considered a blemish. So therefore, these blemishes, Zayah and Reich HaPeh, are worse by a woman, even a temporary one, because can't stop it, and therefore those are blemishes that are considered for a woman. Again, if he didn't make it tonight, she goes out without a ksubah. Made it tonight, is no kedusha at all. But he says one of the things that the middle thing that he said that applied to a woman over and above a Kohen is a shuma, a mole. Hechidami. What kind of a mole we talking about? If it's got hair and it grows hair, the mole has hair growing. Possible by a Kohen as well as for a woman. Either way, it's possible for it's possible either way. Rashi says. Not Rashi over here, but they're both either way apostles. Either lowest, but if it doesn't have hair in it, if it's a large one, it's still possible. It still apostles both of them. Apostles here presumably going in because we're talking about a woman. We're not. In other words, apostles in all apostle probably means by an animal or by a Kohen, but apostles in others. How can you say that this applies to a woman over and above a Kohen, which is the same as for an animal? Either way, apostles. If it's a small mole, doesn't ruin anything. The tiny shuma a mole that has hair growing out of it, harez mum. Ein baseir if it doesn't have hair. If it's a gedola, harez mum. Kana ein mum. So it's not a mum at all. Basically, though, what's considered big? Like the size of an Italian coin. That's considered a gdol. So the point over here is, if it's a small one, so why is it a psul at all? It's on her forehead. Yes, indeed, it's small, and it wouldn't possible by a Kohen or by an animal, whatever. Pardon? Oh, so that's the question. Then next question, next line. But when it's not the chasa raw benefit, it's not even next line, same line, right? If it was on her forehead, he saw it and he agreed. What's the problem? How can he have a complaint over here? It's under her hat. It's on her forehead, but sometimes it's on her head. It's on her head, her head covering. Sometimes it can be seen, some not. So it's not obvious that he saw it. As we'll see, if it's something that he clearly saw, as we'll see, we'll talk about. She has a sixth finger. It didn't grow now. We'll talk about that later. If something that he saw here, it's something he didn't see it. So it's a small one, but it's obvious, and therefore that's also considered a blemish that she would lose her ksubah. I heard the following from a great man, Umar of Sheila. His name is of Sheila. Let's say a dog bit her and a scar. She was bitten by an animal and it remained a scar. Her mum. Amar Chista called. So that's a mum, right? It's not that one. Amar Chista. Again, is it something that he saw? We're going to talk about that. Who is the part of it? We're just talking about right now. We're defining what's a blemish. So the Gemara got ahead of itself by saying, "Oh, but if he saw it, he agreed." The answer is he didn't see it. We'll talk about when you see it, what's exposed, what's not. The woman has a thick voice. Hareza mum. That is considered a mum. Your voice is sweet and your appearance is pleasant. In other words, a woman is supposed to have a sweet voice. She has a harsh voice. Then that's considered a mum. It's considered a blemish. Obviously, that can't be easily corrected. If a woman has a full tefach, that's 4 finger breadths between her breasts, he said something about that. That's nice if there is space between the 2 breasts. We learned this when it comes to blemishes. That's considered a blemish. Obviously, it depends on the size of the woman, right? But normally, that's considered a blemish if there's too much space between the breasts. How much is considered a good amount of space? 3 it's both. 3/4 of that is the normal amount. Any larger than that is considered a mum. Let's say a woman has extremely large breasts. That's also considered a mum. How much is that? How much is considered, very large? Rav Meir Shapiro ben Levi. Remember his name, Rav Meir, the Barbre, the grandson of Shub ben Levi. Rav Shapiro said the name of his grandfather, Tefach. If it's larger by a tefach over and above normal size. Normal size, if it's a tefach larger, they go miki kai gafna. I mean, there's different sizes of breasts, but is there somebody have a breast that's a full tefach larger than the breasts of normal women? Zayn, says, I saw an Arab woman, she took her breasts and thrust them behind her back, and nursed her kid that way. She had extremely large breasts. That's considered a mum. All right, now since we had the member of Maisha, a strange name, Barbre, Rav Shubin Levi, it's probably Maisha is probably like the same, but Moshe, Maisha, the grandson of Shubin Levi. So we have another thing that he said now too that has nothing to do with our Gemara, but it's just a member that he said. Well, it's Sion Yamar, and it said about Sion, about Zion, about Yerushalayim, Ish v'ish, a man and a man. Yula born there. What do you mean by a man and a man? We'll see. Hu Yochanan Elyon. And Hashem established it and made it very high. Amar Maisha Bar of Shubin, like the same rabbi, Rav Maisha, the grandson of Shubin Levi. What do you mean Ish v'ish? There are people who are born in Yerushalayim and Sion, and also those who hope to see Yerushalayim, those who are Zionists who come to want to see it. All that they're all considered as having been born here. Let's see. Not only the people who were born here, but even the people who weren't born here, but who hope to make Aliyah and hope to see to see Yerushalayim. That the pasuk says about is talking about them as well. Amar Abaya, the Chad Minayu. So Abaya was in Babel, said one of those in Eretz Yisrael, one of the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael, Adif Kitremin is as great as two of us in Babel. The rabbis in Babel in Eretz Yisrael are like one of them is like two of us. Amarava, the Chad Minan, but one of us, Kisalik Lahasam, when we make Aliyah and we move to Eretz Yisrael, Adif Kitreminayu are as good as two of them. In other words, while we're in Babel, one of them is as good as two of us. But if one of us makes Aliyah, then we become even greater than them. And one of us over there is like two of them in Israel. How do you prove it? Rav Yirmiyah, when he was here in Babel, he didn't know what was going on. He didn't understand what was going on in the base medrash. He didn't know what the rabbi said. When he went up to Eretz Yisrael, Karilan, he called about us, not the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael. He called about us, Babli Tafshai, called us foolish Babylonians. In other words, there he became greater than them. That's the idea. So when you come up to Eretz Yisrael, that's a good encouragement for Aliyah. You become smart. And what do you mean by great? Rashi says, Pikrim the Harif, and smart and sharp when you move to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, now.
See from this Gemara that they were very sneezy.
Yeah, they didn't know. Right. That's exactly right. Good. So we're going to get into that now. Look at the Mishnah. It says the Mishnah. How you bomb woman? Let's say she had woman. But basically, while she was still in her father's house. Remember, when they were betrothed, in those days, they stayed at home at their father's house until they got married. So she had woman Oisabiyah. What happens over here? What happens? She got married, right? And he's claiming now he doesn't want to pay the ksuba, right? That's the issue of paying the ksuba. So upon who is it the proof? If she's still at home, and then the father has to bring proof. So that what happened? Right? In other words, it looks like if she's at home and she has the mum, it looks like maybe she had the mum before they got engaged, right? And so it's on the father to bring proof that she only got the mum subsequent to the engagement, right? Subsequent engagement, and it's his fault. It's his tough luck. Like his field was overrun. You understand? We're talking about, he's arguing. He says, listen, when I married you, you didn't tell me about this when we got engaged. You didn't tell me anything about it. I'm not paying the ksuba. She says, no. This happened. Obviously, we're not talking about a mum that she was born with. Obviously, it was clear this point. We're talking about something that could have happened to her, broken a leg, broken an arm, broke her back, something that turned not something that was congenital, obvious, because then clearly that was her fault. They didn't tell him about that, right? And not something that he could see. That's obvious, right? But here the argument is, when did it happen? The key is that it happened before engagement or after. It was before engagement and you didn't say anything, the girl is going to lose her ksuba. If it was at her father's house, we say, well, the father has to bring proof that it happened subsequent to the Everson, and it's his tough, and it's the Baal's tough luck. Now, but once she got married, Now we're going to see that these things jive. When she gets married, then it's on the husband to bring proof that the moment happened before she got engaged. In other words, if she's still at home, then the father has to bring proof. If she got married already, then she's married now, right? He took her in, then the husband has to bring proof, right? She has to bring proof that it happened before they got engaged. Different. That's what Meir says. Now, the Chacham, look what the Chacham say. Now, more about woman should say so. They were talking about things that are hidden that he couldn't have seen. Of a woman should if it was clear that he could see, and he can't have any argument. Like you said, he saw it. If he saw it, what can he say? Fine. Right? The im yesh merchus, if there's a bathhouse in the city, he can't claim about even things that are hidden. He says, he tells his sisters and his mother, go in and check her out at the bathhouse. Because remember, in those days they didn't have indoor plumbing and they didn't have showers and baths at home. Everybody had to go to the bathhouse to be able to see it. So let's assume now that we're talking where there was no bathhouse in the city and it was a mumsha b'seiser. And therefore, Rameh and the Chum would agree, right? That we're talking about in those cases, those are good arguments. But why is it? What difference does it make if she's still at home or if she's in her father's house or if she's in her husband's house? It says more time to my see of Raya. The father has to bring proof that it happened after the engagement. If we wouldn't bring proof, the husband's believed. Why is believed? Why is he believed? After all, isn't there a chazaka? Women are not born with these things. These are things that happen afterwards. She broke a leg, she broke an arm, she broke her back. How do we know? Like she has a chazaka, cheskes aguf, that she was okay till then. So probably happened later on. So what do you say if the father doesn't bring proof? The husband's believed. Goes like Rabbi Shiur, the Omer Lami Pian Chaim. We had that machlokes back before in your base. We don't go by her word. In other words, even though she has a cheskes aguf, which says that she was okay until very recently, but who has the money? The husband. He's the one who has to pay the ksuba. So therefore, Rabbi Shiur goes with the husband. Okay, Ema Seifa. See, the argument is going to be, what difference make where she is? Do you go by cheskes aguf or do you go by cheskes mammon? Ema Seifa, look at the Seifa. This one says, once she's married, he has to bring proof. He has to bring proof that it happened before they got engaged. Time in the Maisi of Raya, the Maisi of Baal Raya. Hello, Maisi of Baal Raya. Mehem and the fathers believe. In other words, in the first case, you see that who's believed? The husband, right? The father has to bring proof. In the second case, you see where they're married, the husband has to bring proof. Otherwise, the father's believed. That goes like Gamaliel. Goes like Gamaliel to Amar Ne'emanis, that she's believed. You go with Cheskes Guf. Gamaliel says the Cheskes Guf. Remember, she says back on your days she says Misha Nastani Nasti. I was raped after the engagement, and he says no, you raped before. Rabbi Shiur says okay, we go with the money, and he doesn't have to pay. Gamaliel says no, we go with the Cheskes Guf. Cheskes Guf is odif, is better than a Cheskes Mammon. So the ratios are Rabbi Shiur says Gamaliel. If you go by Cheskes Guf, what difference does it make where if she's in her father's house, if she's in the husband's house? Look at the Cheskes. If you go by the Cheskes Mammon, again, it doesn't make any difference. Amar of Lezer Tava, you're right. It's a good kasha. It's broken. It's like a receipt. Misha Shanazu, Lo Shanazu. There's a machlokas. In other words, the first part of the bicycle is like a Rabbi Shiur, and Rabbi Shiur wouldn't make any difference if she's in her father's house or if she's in her husband's house. It's upon the father to bring proof. Otherwise, the guy doesn't have to pay. We lo mipi anachayim. And according to Gamaliel, it doesn't make any difference also whether it's in the father's house or the husband's house. The husband has to bring proof. Otherwise, she has her cheskes aguf, which says that she didn't have a moment until very recently. Amar Rava. So Rava just explains. Don't say Rava doesn't look. Rava says, don't say Rabbi Shiur doesn't look at the cheskes aguf. The cheskes aguf says that she was born okay, and you had a chazaka till now. The presumption she was okay till very recently. So Rabbi Shiur doesn't agree with that. No, he does agree. He does go look at the cheskes aguf file. Ela kilo as Rabbi Shiur chazaka. When does he look at? Does he not look at the cheskes aguf? Heicha the ika chazaka the mamona. There was a chazaka mom. In other words, here the two things are contrary. Cheskes aguf says that she was okay till recently. The cheskes mamon is the husband has the money. He says, no, I'm not paying. Those two things go against each other. There's no chazaka mamon. Also, Rabbi Shiur does look at the chazaka of guf, where there's no chazaka of mamon. For example, where there's no money involved. Like, for example, this case that Tanya in Baher's case of Mitzorah. If the bright spot was there before the hair, before the white hair, let's say love and tummy. That's what the pasuk says. The Mitzorah's tummy. Im say love and kodem averes. If the white hair were there before the bright spot tor. Suffolk, if you're not sure, tummy. Rabbi Shiur no kaya. What does it mean kaya? It means dark. My kaya. Amar Abba kaya tar. It's as if it's dark. If it's a suffix, you go you look at the chazaka. The chazaka says she was Torah until now. So if it's a suffix, if the white hair was before the bright spot or the bright spot was there before, you go basa chazaka and say she's Torah. So you see, even Rabbi Shua says you go basa chazaka of guf just when it doesn't contradict the money. Rabbi says no. So we're saying now that there's a machlokus in the Mishnah. The first part goes like Rabbi Shua, the second part goes like Leo. Rabbi says no. The whole mission go like Leo, like we paskin. You look at chazaka of guf. The chazaka of guf is stronger. When there's a chazaka of guf going against chazaka of mammon, you look at chazaka of guf is stronger. But Rabbi says no. The reisha kan nimso kan hayu. The difference is this: if she's still in her father's house, you assume that the boom happened here. Kan nimsa kan hayu. It's a kan. If you found it now, presumably it happened here. Seifa nami kan nimsa kan hayu. In the seifa where she's in her husband's house, she's married already, so she got the mum. You assume it happened in her husband's house, and it's his tough luck. That's what it's his tough luck. He has to prove. In other words, what do we say? He doesn't pay the ksuba if she fooled him. But if it happened after they were married, right? She can't say anything. Or happened after they were engaged, technically. That's the key. That happened after engaged. If it happened in her husband's house, it was clearly after they were engaged. So he says, you go like Ramnuyo. It depends. You look kind of abaya. What do you mean? The Mishnah said, the Sefer said, if she goes, since she's married, he has to bring proof that it happened when? Before they got engaged, right? Right? He has to prove, if he doesn't want to pay the ksuba, he has to prove that it happened before they got engaged, right? These women happened, but Mecca was a Mecca tos. Are saying only before they got married, only before they got engaged. Let's say he brings proof that it happened in her father's house after they got engaged. Oh, if you say kan nimsa, it happened in her father's house, even after they got engaged, say kan nimsa kan hoya. You say he has to bring proof that it happened before they got engaged. But if you can bring proof here as Adam that it happened in her father's house after they got engaged, so also say kan nimsa kan hoya. It must have happened here in her father's house. If the Adam say that it happened, that the Adam that you have show that she had the mum, they don't know what exactly, but the Adam are telling you after they got engaged, they saw her and she had the mum. As chazaka, there's a strong chazaka. He wouldn't have got engaged to her unless he checked it, and therefore they have another chazaka there. If it happened, there's a chazaka, he would have checked it, so therefore he would have agreed to it. The high Rav and a Fais, he must have seen it, then he would agree to it. So there's another chazaka in her favor. And as besides the chazaka, there's a chazaka of guf that will happen early on, and you say kanim sekanhaya, but there's a chazaka, he must have seen it. Otherwise, why would he have engaged her? That's the case. Even if you could prove that it happened before Nasaris Nami, you could say that too. Even if it was there before, he must have seen it and agreed. If another chazaka says a person doesn't want to agree to muman, how do you say he saw it and he agreed? Person wouldn't normally agree to muman. So here also you could say, when it was after say chazaka and fayis from woman, and therefore he wouldn't have agreed to it. So therefore, if you say kan nimsa kan hoya, even if the Edomer say that she had the mum in her father's house, the Edomer saw it after they got engaged. Ella mishinasar. So if the Edom saw it after she got engaged, they saw the mum mishum diikatarti chazak. There's two chazakas. She has two chazakas. So number one, she has a chazaka of guf that she was born clean. The chazaka and him shows because of coke, and another chazaka that he wouldn't have gotten engaged to her unless he checked it. Bahirani must have seen it and agreed. Therefore, he has no claim. She has a claim. I want my ksuba. Number one, I have a chazaka that I was clean, that I didn't have any moment. And second of all, even if I did have it, you saw it and you agreed. Ma'amer, what are you going to say? There's another chazaka. A person wouldn't normally accept to be a mumum. It's one chazaka against two. We don't say that. That's only if they got engaged. If they saw it after they got engaged. Therefore, she's believed. Even if the husband brought proof and that it happened in her house, but it was after they got engaged. She has two chazakas. Number one, cheskas aguf. Number two, that he wouldn't have married. He would have checked it before he got engaged. But if the husband can bring proof that she had the mum before they got engaged, so you only have one chazaka, Hemed Haguf al Cheska. So that chazaka says that she was clean, right? So lo yikalamem, you can't say that. Why? Why can't you say that? Hemed Chavaz, the chazaka that she was clean is no good because the Edom are saying we saw the mum before they got engaged. The whole issue is not what if she happened when she was 3 or 9 or 12. The question is, did she have the mum when they got engaged or not? So if the Edom saw that she had mum before they got engaged, there's no cheskas or guf here. She didn't get engaged with a chazak of guf. What are the chazakas? Chazaka denam shosa b'kosel and came broke. You have the chazaka that he wouldn't have got engaged unless he checked her. The high rive on a fais he agreed. Adarabah chazaka and a fais mum. You have the other chazaka that says that person wouldn't agree to muman. Therefore, it's chazaka against chazaka and leave the money where it is, and the husband doesn't have to pay. All right, we'll pick him here tomorrow. Mitzvah Rav Ashi gives another answer to the Mishnah to understand the Reisha to the Sefer.